embarrass you. All of you. I'm thinking about it.
Anybody have any meds?
Meds, allergy meds.
Oh, in my office, but my office so long.
You're like, no, it's you. How is everybody? Leon?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I will call to order this legislative committee meeting for May 9th, 2025. And who takes it?
I'll just let everyone know that we have a limited time together. We have about a half an hour because there are some members of the committee that have other responsibilities today. So we're going to try to keep it a little tight. This is mostly a process update and an opportunity for you all to ask questions about bills that the city has taken a position on. So how would you like to proceed? Do you want to
Do we do a little roll?
Welcome. Well, let's do a little roll as long as Linda's come in.
Oh my gosh. I'm wearing it Monday night.
I'm Julie Hoy. Linda Nishioka.
Deanna Gwen.
Irvin M. Brown.
This is not here. Is she coming? Do you know?
She was intending to join us for a short period.
Okay, we'll see her when she gets here. In this interest of time, should we just move the board into the discussion?
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mayor and members of council. Nice to see everybody for our quick ledge update today. I know we're on a quick time frame. I'm just going to go over some calendar stuff, a brief session update, what we've been up to. I can go through the bill reports really quick, Courtney, if you want me to, everything we've supported, where it's at. And then finally talk a little bit about yesterday's informational hearing. Is there anybody wants me to touch on other than that? Okay, with that calendar. We've got a May 9th, which is today, post of work session in the second chamber. So in the emails, as I was getting ready to come over, we saw a flood of things get scheduled for work sessions just to keep them alive within the process. We've got some upcoming deadlines as well. As everybody knows, we've got the May 14th revenue forecast, as I talked about early in the session. This is that point where kind of the policy work is done. Things are sitting in Ways and Means. Once that revenue forecast comes out, that gives the legislature as a body the amount of money that they're going to have, and then they start picking and choosing those priorities. So all the groundwork that we've done to get everything in front of them, now it's kind of go time for the next 6 weeks. There is another chamber deadline. A work session has to be held by May 23rd. So we'll keep an eye on those bills that just got work sessions scheduled. They are targeting to leave the building on June 18th. Now, I think that's nice and a wonderful way to kind of say, hey, we're going to try to get out of here by the 18th. But the reality is they can be in there until the 29th. I would imagine they'll be in there the whole time, till the 29th. In my 30 years, I don't think I've seen anybody really sign and die early. And you guys remember before the constitutional limits, we used to go into August sometimes. There was no end in sight, so we'd be down there just sweating it out until August 10th, August 15th, August 20th, kind of ruin everybody's summer, right? So tricking the voters into doing these annual legislative sessions by writing limits the legislature to 160 days in an odd numbered year and 35 days in an even numbered year has actually worked quite well to put those deadlines in place. So I doubt we'll see the 18th. I would imagine we'll probably get out of there the 26th or the 27th. Why I say that is you've got certain mechanics in the building. So even when everybody agrees, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to fund, it still takes a few days to shut the building down. You've got to get all the paperwork done. You've got to get, as Mark will attest to, you got to get the legal beagles in there to dot all the I's and cross all the T's and make sure everything's okay. So once they come in on a Monday, they're usually there for the rest of the week. So I would be looking at the 27th. And if they have to do that weekend, 28th, 29th, constitutionally, they have to be out by that Sunday, the 29th. Okay. And then that's it on the calendar. Any questions on that? Session update. I mean, we haven't seen a ton of movement. We've seen a ton of policy bills as staff's just been grinding through things. A lot of things that we've supported are sitting down in Ways and Means. I'll go through that here real quick. But the governor's priorities, remember, housing and homelessness, education, behavioral health, And the transportation package, everything's just still kind of in play. We've seen road shows from Ways and Means. We've seen those things just kind of trickling along, so everything's going good there. Meetings that we've had, as everybody knows, the mayor and I have spent a lot of time with our Salem delegation, talking about our funding priorities that are really important to us, mentioning some of the policy issues that we really care about. We've done all of those. We've gotten all those done. I had my 2 big meetings as your contract lobbyist with the co-chairs. That's where I actually leave a piece of paper behind that says, here's what the city of Salem's priorities are. I want to make sure they've got that in their file for when they're looking and doing their old whiteboard routine, right? Where they write up all the potential things that will get funded. Next up, I've got my 2 final shots with legislative leadership. So I'll meet with the Senate President as well as the Speaker of the House on the 15th and the 21st. And again, that's a final meeting saying, here's what my clients really need. Here's why this is beneficial, not just to the community of Salem, but to the state as well.
What were those 2 dates been?
The 15th and the 21st are when I meet. So right after that, now I made sure to meet with the co-chairs before the May revenue forecast, but right after that forecast is when I'll have my shot with both Speaker Fahey and Senate President Wagner. All right, bill reports. Courtney, do you want to hit this or do you want me to comment or just grind through it?
Just going through it, this is an update about the status of where things are that we had interest in over the course of the session so far. Yes?
I was just putting that shot.
Dr. Brown, the list of priorities that we're sharing are the same ones that the city has been grinding on, as just to borrow a term from from Justin. It's the same list that we've been focused on for the whole session. So that would be the airport terminal improvement plan. It would be the airport emergency power generation and our capital district. So those are the key priorities. I did want to ask a question later about whether we want to support something else, but we'll just advance through the status of the bills for now.
Perfect.
Great.
Yeah, and I was just going to hit to Councilor Brown's point, obviously public safety for the state capital district. There was an informational hearing yesterday. We're asking for about 7.25 million, which is what actually is off the rolls. Courtney mentioned the airport terminal area plan as well as resiliency and emergency power. That's a $1.35 million ask. River Road slide mitigation, since it is a transportation session, that's a couple $1 million. Peace Plaza, a couple $1 million as well. Courtney will note that here in a minute. In terms of bills that you as a council have supported, 2467 relating to mental illness is sitting down in Ways and Means. 2531, which was Representative Anderson's bill to look at services, providing funding for services to the city of Salem. Did not meet the deadline. He did not get that hearing in time, so the bill's officially dead.
Everyone will have this in your email, so you don't need to scribble as fast as you can. It'll be in your email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And I'd just like to note that Councilor Nordyke has joined.
Hey, Councilor.
Hi folks, sorry about that. And I can only make an abbreviated appearance because today I will be making my closing argument for the city's livability levy to a group at the Salem City Club at noon. So I'll be signing off around 11:30. But thank you, Justin, for all your work. I was in the legislature yesterday and reminded Representative Evans of the importance of this capital district, just FYI.
Great. Thank you for that. And to piggyback on that, since we did have that informational hearing, I'll hit that real quick now so you get that information before you bring it home at the City Club. Representative Evans, so it was great. So we got good turnout from all our delegation. Rep Deal was there, Rep Munoz, Rep Mannix, Rep Anderson. The chamber showed up in support. And Rep Evans actually sat on the stand, which was good since there's, you're not passing a bill out of that committee. It was purely informational. He brought up a very good point because the mayor and I had heard in a couple of our meetings, well, doesn't the capital city get a bump from employees that come in daily, restaurants, et cetera? There is a multiplier effect around the capital city ordinarily. But I think what we've seen, and Representative Evans brought this up in committee, is that amount of workers are not descending on the city every day like they used to pre-pandemic. So a lot of people are working remote. We don't have that mass of people coming into the city every day like they used to. Also because of the pandemic, as everybody here knows that lives in the city, we've had a lot of restaurants close. We don't have a lot of availability for restaurants close in and around the Capitol. We also have a major, since we are really super majorities in both chambers, Democrats on both sides, Senate and House, the majority of our members are from Eugene, Salem, Portland, and they commute home. So we don't have a legislature where everybody comes in and stays in the city during the process. So Representative Evans really did highlight the fact that that multiplier effect of the past doesn't really present itself like it does now. He also brought up the city of Olympia and what they do in Washington, which is a great comparable because that's about the kind of money that we're asking for in going forward. So I think the informational hearing was very good from that point, even though there's no real outcome out of it. It was good to hear Representative Evans, one of our own, comment on the bill and on the need to get Salem some operating dollars. Representative Mannix pointed out some anti-crime stuff, which is great. The city obviously has need there. And then they also talked about the history of our fire department and what they've been able to do in terms of, you know, saving the governor's office and the entire Capitol last in 2008 or 2009, whenever that was. And again, the fire in 1934, I think it was 34 or 37. So I thought it was a good hearing from that perspective. So Madam Mayor, I would ask if we do have, it looks like we have some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. Councilor Nordike, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to add that, you know, the benefit to our businesses, however greatly appreciated, isn't necessarily money in the city's pocket. So I mean, I don't feel like we love that and we want our businesses to thrive, but I mean, it's not property tax money that comes back to us necessarily. But the other thing is, I've asked our police chief, and I don't know if that information has been shared with the committees thus far, but every time we have a major protest, that is undoubtedly due to being in the heart of the Capitol. And I'd ask the city, are we keeping a running tab on how much it costs us every time there's a protest in terms of staff time, overtime, fueling up the patrol cars, all the things that we do. Every time we respond to protests across the political spectrum, every time people come here to exercise their First Amendment rights, there is an impact that is unique to Salem that you will not see anywhere else in the state. So I don't know to what extent that argument has resonated with the legislature, but to me, I think it's a compelling point.
It has, Counselor, and Trevin's really kind of outfitted us with talking points behind that, moving officers around, switching shifts, paying overtime, training specific to dealing with crowds, dealing with rallies, dealing with protests, all the opportunity costs as well that are associated with that. So we've been utilizing that in our behind the scenes meetings and conveying that to our own Salem delegation when talking about this. Excellent. All right, moving right along. 2947 biosolids applied to land, PFAS you call them, sitting down there in Ways and Means. Next, relating to unmanned aircraft systems, we had support. There is a work session scheduled on the 19th. In Senate Judiciary. We will keep an eye on that. The rail study, West Side Rail 3453, that's sitting down in Ways and Means. Clackamas County Land Trust Housing support, sitting down in Ways and Means, 3503. 3634, operator and training, water workforce, sitting down in Ways and Means. Council.
Is it all right if I ask a question, even though I'm alternate right now?
We have a quorum. So
Yeah,
we
you
did-
should do, you're here.
It's just a question. I'm wondering, this is Clackamas County and we're supporting this. I'm just wondering what the explanation is in that sense. It's not like super local.
We're doing that, Jessica can explain in more detail, but this is sort of in anticipation. We want this pilot to be successful because we ourselves have an
That's all I
intent.
needed to hear. Thank you.
Any more on that, Jessica?
Yeah, so we're just continuing our work around the home ownership stuff, and we'll have a dollar amount ready probably for the next session. And Mannix and Anderson have agreed to sponsor our monetary ask similar to that bill.
Okay, and so that when I saw that, I just thought, okay, there must be a connection, but I didn't quite know what it was.
Yep.
Thank you.
Kind of teeing up for us. Hopefully it's a successful pilot and tees us up for next time around. Water workforce, operator and training. Jason, anything on that? Just sitting down Ways and Means. Relating to open meetings, we were in opposition of this, 3720. It did not meet the session deadline, so good, we can check that one off our list. Nice work. Solid Waste Task Force 3794 in support. It's sitting down on Ways and Means. That's a bill sponsored by Finger McDonald, Gelser, and Patterson. Senate Bill 31 relating to housing, we've got support. It's sitting down on Ways and Means. 179 relating to landowner immunity. Scheduled for May 7th, but it did not happen. It's not yet been posted for a rescheduled work session, so we'll keep an eye on that, see where that's at. And then finally, 1189 with the work of Jason Pulley, that was an exception to the 3 basin rule. We supported that. It's been through both chambers and signed by the governor.
Yep.
That's a done deal, which ultimately will protect our water system. Jason, any more on that?
No, that was just, it was an exemption to ORS to allow the project.
And there's a ton of funding for them through ARPA funds, so it needed to happen in a certain time frame. And it's a really good example of, one, our expertise helping the COG getting together, as we're all members of the Council of Governments. Tribes came on board there, folks from the Canyon. This was a good piece of legislation that we all kind of worked on together as a region, and I think should be successful because of it, protect our own water system. Nice work from Polly over here. That's it.
Are there any other questions? I have 2 specific things, and then we can just have broad conversation until some of you have to leave. I have 2 things. One is that Representative Anderson is seeking City of Salem support for a Fairview Park Master Plan interpretive space. And the question is whether we would want to lend our voice to support that capital request. It's a project that will occur in 2027. The city has a park master plan for the Fairview area, and it doesn't harm us to get that funding from a different source, and we're not in a rush, but it's coming from a constituent, and Representative Anderson is advancing that as one of his priorities for future funding. So the question before you all is whether we want to just add that to the list of capital requests that the city has, because I'm being asked to submit that letter of support for the Christmas tree bill that's about to advance. I don't know, I'm sorry, Doug, I don't know who was first.
Councilor Nordhook, go ahead.
Sure, Courtney. I think we have discussed this briefly before, and if I'm remembering correctly, this committee was wondering whether it would have any financial cost tied to it. From what you're saying, this would not be a general fund cost. This is not taking money out of our coffers. This would be capital funds that would arrive from a state fund or some other external source. Do I understand that correctly?
That's true. For the interpretive center, the interpretive part of the park master plan. So it's already envisioned that there would be an interpretive space inside the park master plan. And this is a constituent asking Representative Anderson to fund that interpretive center part of the vision for that park space. And so it would be state funds that would contribute to building that part out of the parks master plan, not city funds.
Well, I don't see a downside, honestly. And things that we can do to support our parks sound good to me. I know that this council has expressed concern about, parks maintenance costs, but if we're already maintaining that park, then perhaps there would be. I'm trying to be very thoughtful of the fiscal impact of literally everything we do, because I know the city is laser focused on that. I'm not seeing a big impact, if any, from what you've described. And I mean, the parks are a selling point. They increase home values for residents that surround that park area. They enhance livability, especially for folks who can't afford privatized versions of those things. So based on what you're telling me, this sounds pretty good to me. But I'd love to hear what others have to say.
Councilor Brown, did you have something?
Yes, I would like to know how it would impact the city. Chief, you mentioned, Courtney, that there was a constituent that was also helping to fund, or did I mishear that?
There's a constituent, Representative Anderson is putting this forward on behalf of a constituent who really
Mhm.
wants this interpretive piece to succeed or to be funded and advanced. And so that's why this piece is coming independent of the park, all the other park investments.
Got it.
This would be first.
And from our own lobbyist, has he given input on this yet?
No, he's just asked us to weigh in if the council would like to. I don't
Why-
think, there's a couple things, Councilor Brown, I would say this, it's not a huge ask. So I don't know if it gets in the way of what we're already asking for, and we've really laid the groundwork for what we really need as a city. It's certainly courteous to our rep, who's gonna be in that position for a while. It's a very safe Democratic seat. It's just kind of up to folks. I mean, it's late in the game. We've got a ton of requests in now. Normally, I would say, okay, this is a $8 to $10 million ask. We're asking for quite a bit here. This could dilute or downplay our messaging, but I don't know. I think that's up to the council, and I don't think it's one way or the other. It's totally up to folks here. It's not like it's a $5 or $10 million ask.
So to
No,
be
it's-
more
it's-
specific, sorry, I probably should have said, it's a $1.5 million ask. And it is for an interpretive plaza and memorial, because it's the former Fairview training site. And so
Mhm.
it would honor that heritage of the site as we, the city, construct a park around that, in that space.
Got it. If there are no major impacts to us, and I don't know what Madam Mayor would like to say to it, but my concern is always things that happen in the late of the hour, even when legislation session is drawing to a close. I realize this could be a good thing for us. I just want to make sure that we think through it thoroughly.
I agree with both.
Yeah, I thank you for the context. I was remembering in Lieber's office when we met with her and she said, tell me the story. You come in, you ask for money, and I don't even know the context of the story. And so that helps me a lot. And I do feel, I know there's quite a history to that property, and that it would be very appropriate to memorialize that in some way. You would know better about if it's gonna mess up anything at this point in the session. So I'm supportive of the memorial, or whatever it's called. And would trust your leadership and judgment on if now is the time. Vanessa has her hand up. Counselor Nordike.
That's all right, Madam Mayor, no worries. I want to piggyback on what Justin said. Building relationships with our legislators today is an investment in our future. This is an easy lift. I think it would be odd if the city of Salem did not write a letter of support in favor of a capital improvement within the city of Salem that it is not being asked to put up matching funds for. And I think it is incumbent upon us to build a good and positive relationship with a legislator who I feel is not going anywhere either. I've known Tom a long time before he was Representative Anderson, and he has had a real track record of advocating for this city and advocating for public spaces. So this feels very consistent. And, when our friends win, we win. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here for us to deepen our relationship with a core member of our delegation who has gone to bat for us over and over again for this capital district. And, he has been using, I'm sure, his own political capital to be out in front of this capital district idea at a time when, as no longer a freshman legislator, but still a relatively junior legislator, he's been going to bat for our city. And I feel like this is a sort of thing where we can come alongside and be supportive, and we don't have to pay for this. And as Madam Mayor said, a memorial to honor the souls that we're at Fairview makes all kinds of sense. We all know that the state has a neglectful history is the most diplomatic way I can put it. So anyway, I'm in favor. I think we should do it.
And I would say this, council, you know, there's a lot of proposals on the table, so I don't, you know, the odds of something like this getting through, who knows? But again, sometimes it takes multiple sessions and raising awareness about these things, and it would certainly be supportive of one of ours.
Well, I'm willing to come out in support of that. I want to know more. I want to know what it's gonna look like and what it's gonna be.
And I'll spend a little time with Andy in his office figuring out exactly. And then Courtney, I have 825 in my notes.
Oh.
On the request.
It might have been the original bill was 1.5. I'm sorry, I might be behind.
Nikki,
but
I think pulls this right from the requests that go to
she-
Walt Campbell. So
always Nikki, never Courtney.
so 825 is what I have in my notes as the
It's getting
number.
better all the
Perfect.
time.
And then the only other thing I would add is, this is a 2016 master plan for that park that includes a little interpretive center. And so staff certainly can provide updates to council about the status of that master plan in the park.
2016.
2016 is the date of the master plan for the park. 2016 Fairview Park Master Plan. Yeah, and I have some pretty art to share, but we'll get you out an update on that.
Dr. Brown's in the chat saying he's in favor.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I will just add it to the city's list of priorities and you, okay, good luck.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you for doing it.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, so that's the business that we needed to accomplish. There was one small thing that I'm getting the eye about. The University of Oregon Sustainable Cities Year program that the city has participated in twice has asked us to sign on to a letter of seeking funding support to continue that program and make it easier for local governments to participate, because it's a pay-to-play model. And so they've asked whether we would sign on. Trevin can speak more to the ongoing partnership we're getting for free from them after our last engagement. And specifically, they're asking if the chief can sign on. He wants to make sure that that's okay with council, that he's supporting that work. So do you want to speak more to the benefit that you're getting?
Yes, so I attended after Sustainable City Year, came and worked mostly with Public Works and kind of like community development department, because it was parks and library and center plus. and
It was a whole city.
It was the whole city, but not including the police department. I just got invited later. And while we were there,
You're welcome.
Courtney introduced me to Megan and she said, we have some capacity coming up. And we'd love to work with the police department again. Previously in 2010, they had helped try and design the
Police
the
station.
new police station. So essentially we said, well, we're looking at trust building through procedural, with our procedural justice push with Chief Womack. And so a journalism class took that on and provided us, worked with us in how to do more community outreach in specific demographics, and presented us with a nice packet that actually had some really good and creative ideas associated with that. So it took a little bit of staff time, but it didn't cost us anything, which is really nice in our current budget constraints. And then because that partnership went so well, a different professor wanted to bring on his marketing class, his senior marketing class. And so currently we are working with one of their PR groups on a public relations campaign around traffic safety. So we just met with them. They took a tour of the police department and they have, I think, 3 or 4 more weeks before they would present a PR campaign around traffic safety, which is in line with our current strategic plan and our future strategic plan, focusing on impaired driving and all the roadway fatalities that we've had over the past couple of years. So we've been seeing a lot of benefit. It enhances our ability to communicate with the public and attack that, because we all know we're constrained in that area. So we've been very thankful, and it's been a great partnership to go and work with them. Have gone down to the U of O once and have met with the students at least twice. So it's really kind of a cool partnership that we have with them.
So we just wanted to sort of maybe ask permission, seek forgiveness, that the chief might be interested in signing on to a letter of support for the University of Oregon seeking more funding. And if you need any more, what we're getting right now is just the benefit of having a longstanding collaboration. But when a city makes that choice, you invest, we in our last partnership, I think it cost us half because, so what you're doing is you're paying a base level for engagement with the school and then a variable level depending on the complexity of the course. If you're getting an architecture course, it costs a lot more because it's a lot more student hours. If you're getting a communications course, it's a lot less because it's less intense for the students. The students get this great practical experience, and the communities get a much bigger lift than they could have done on their own. And University of Oregon Sustainable Cities Year has a Department of Education grant that defrayed half of our cost. That's the only way we could have participated 2 years ago when we did. That grant is ending. They're looking for some state support. This again is a Representative Anderson bill, sponsored bill, to try to get more support to let more communities take advantage of this. As we know, Salem's like the second or third largest, depending on the year. Other smaller communities can't really take advantage of this infusion of capacity just because they can't afford it. So it's a question of whether you guys are comfortable with the chief signing on.
I'm comfortable.
Me too.
Linda,
Any
I
objections?
guess I
Great.
guess I get to say yes on this one.
Great. All right.
Great, I'll let the chief know next week.
Thank you so much.
Right on time. Thank you all.
Thank you.
It's great program.
We don't have any other business, but we're happy to sit and talk. And I think Mark Dedrick might want to share a little bit with what's going on federally if you have curiosity or questions.
Always. I gotta walk down the hill, so I'm gonna take off if that's okay.
Understood. We don't have any other informal business.
Okay, thank you all very much.
So it sounds like you'd like to hear.
Oh, always.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, what do you know?
Not a lot.
Thank you.
It's still interesting times out here. It's been being dominated recently by the reconciliation process on the House side right now. Not to get too in the weeds, but reconciliation is a process by which you can move revenue measures, things either increase spending or cut spend, increase revenue or decrease revenue. Then you can get that through the Senate with 50 votes plus one, 50% plus one through the Senate. They've gone through kind of to date a lot of the more abstract portions of that where it was relatively easy to pretend that you weren't going to do massive spending cuts to popular programs or different things like that. Like there were a lot of people saying Medicare is not mentioned in this bill. I don't know why you're telling me that we're going to be cutting Medicare by what we're doing. This last 2 weeks, though, we've gotten to the portions because not to get too much in the weeds. What they do is they assign numbers to each of the committees of jurisdiction where they say you're supposed to find X amount of savings, you're supposed to find Y amount of savings, and so on around the committee, around the House. And the last 2 weeks they've been actually marking up bills in each of those committees by which they find that amount of savings. And that's where the rubber meets the road on a lot of this, because you actually have to say we're going to cut X amount from this specific line item and Y amount from this specific line item. So far, they've done a lot of the easier subcommittees, a lot of the easier committees. There's not a lot of controversial stuff that was going through, like the Transportation Committee, for example. But we're preparing right now to go through markups next week that'll happen in Energy and Commerce, which will deal with Medicaid, through Agriculture, which deals with SNAP and commodity support payments, and through the Ways and Means Committee as well, so which involves the tax stuff. So those are the hardest ones. They have the largest dollar amounts associated with them. That's what's been, I think, really most on everyone's minds right now, combined with the fact that We also, at the very tail end of last week, so 1 week from today, got the skinny budget from this administration. Those and that had in it a number of very large cuts to domestic spending, including, I know, some HUD cuts that are very much of concern to the city. And if they were to actually go through, I know would be problematic for all pretty much cities across the country, in terms of what that would mean for people. And the only thing I want to kind of caution anyone on who they're concerned about that is, historically, regardless of administration, regardless of party, regardless of whether everything is controlled by the same party, historically, the president's budget is kind of debuted. Everyone makes a big deal out of it for like a couple days. Congress receives the budget and then immediately throws it into the garbage and moves on to pass actually their own budget without ever again referring to what the administration has asked for. So what's going through reconciliation is real. That would be real. I mean, and it's related to the budget, and that would be real spending cuts or tax cuts or whatever that is. So that is worth kind of following. The administration budget that came out, it's worth kind of acknowledging because it's a statement of priorities. But there's a long ways to go before any of those cuts in CDBG or home or the different those different programs, before we see anything kind of related to that on what would happen there. So I'm not saying it's not something to be concerned about, but it's not something to be on emergency alert on or anything of that nature. That's kind of the other kind of big thing that's out here that that folks are going through. And those are really those two things are really kind of sucking up most of the oxygen in the room right now. In addition, Congress, I think, is kind of, once they move through that, they're prepared to move forward on the appropriation side, which is funding for the FY26 budget, and getting that kind of process moving. So those are kind of the big things that we've got going on here.
And just by way of update, appropriations requests. So the city initially had we're really good at following directions. And we had initially been following direction to submit one project to House and one project to Senate. And then everything was rethought, and now we're following a different direction. So we have one project that we've submitted on, and that project is going to be the emergency power generation for 2 senior housing properties, affordable senior housing properties. And so we feel good about that. A, following direction. B, getting lots of direct support for that one project initiative. And the good news there is that this emergency power is an add to an existing project that's going forward regardless, and it makes it better for everybody. Do you want to say anything?
It's just really to protect the seniors from that ice storm consequence that we had when they were 7 days without power and no access to food, heat, or any resources. We want to prevent that in the future.
So we feel good about that?
Yeah.
To the extent that one can feel that we might get an appropriation this year, that we feel good about that being our priority. No downside that we can see. Is there anything else? Does anyone have any questions about? Thank you very much for making sense of it, Mark.
I'm not sure if I 100% did that, but I did my best.
Well, I do know that there has been a lot of concern about the proposed budget cuts, and we here have been talking, and I think too, the council received an update from Kristen Rutherford about the potential for CDBG and home, and also Section 8 housing. About 4,000 people would lose that support in our community. And so, as Mark said, that's happening everywhere, and not just, don't be quite concerned until it really shows up. And then Jessica, do you want to explain a little bit of the advocacy work you're doing from the Housing Authority perspective?
Yeah, one of the really key parts of that proposal is the elimination of public housing authorities and funneling rent assistance to the state, which we've seen happen before during COVID and we know is not the right solution. So right now, we're working kind of from the ground up. So we've got our Housing Authorities of Oregon meeting next week. I'm working on a plan for us to all reach out to our local jurisdiction and begin doing groundwork. I have a meeting to present the impacts of Polk County to the Polk County Board of Commissioners on May 27th, and then continue that roadshow to really kind of bring the lens and impact of what would happen regionally, because although rent assistance would be cut in half for Salem, it would also be cut in half for Polk County and also be cut in half for Marion County, and that impacts a larger number of our population. And regionally, you know, people will shift when they become homeless to where their services are. So we think that the greater region will show the much bigger impact. So I should have data points on that by the end of this month, and we intend to bring them to our Board of Commissioners as well.
Does anyone, I see that Dr. Brown has a question. Is this generating any questions in the room too? Dr. Brown is asking the $1 million question that I think everyone is trying to figure out, because it's not just Salem, it's every community. There are a lot of other organizations that are impacted if this change occurs beyond just cities too. So, I mean, it's everyone, I think, is asking that question about a plan B. And I am mindful that we're waiting on the forecast, which dictates or provides a sense of what the legislature can do. They are also living with this level of uncertainty, and we may see a little bit more, if there is a good forecast, we might see a little bit more constraint around how to allocate a good forecast, given this level of uncertainty. So, you know, there are implications throughout everything that we're doing right now. Sorry, I don't have a good answer. Do you have a good answer, Mr. Dedrick?
The one thing I'll just kind of put out here is I feel cautiously optimistic. I mean, I think that it's going to be a position. It was, I think, always going to be a position with the makeup we have in both the House, the Senate, and with the administration, that it's going to be playing defense on some of these programs with HUD, with SNAP, with some of these other non-defense discretionary programs. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't believe the steep cuts we've seen in the administration's budget. I think those are 100% DOA. I think I'm mildly optimistic when it comes to what the approach bills at the end of the Congress are going to look like, and it's for a simple reason. The majority in the House is so narrow, just a handful of votes, like 3 or 4 votes right now, that when you factor in the fact that you have a number, which is somewhere probably in the neighborhood of about somewhere between like 10 and 25 Republicans who basically won't vote for an appropriations bill that doesn't defund the government or shut down the government. That means the Republicans cannot pass a budget or an appropriations bill, without using Democratic votes. And the moment you go that and you start going through that route, you realistically need just on the process matter of how you would move something through the House in this scenario, you realistically need 2/3 of all members of the House to be voting in favor of the bill. So all of a sudden you need basically all Democrats with, you know, probably like half the Republican conference to vote for something. And at that point you have a true compromise budget, which may not be kind of exactly what the city may want in terms of those funding pots. But it's not going to be a terrible bill. It's not going to be a disaster. When you compound that with the fact that in the Senate, you're going to need 60 votes in order to pass anything through on appropriations again. You again are going to need to get at least 7 Democrats. If you do a bill that you can get 7 Democrats to vote for, it's going to be a bill that has a lot of Democrats, probably the majority of the Democratic conference again in the Senate on board with. And again, at that point, it's not going to be a real draconian bill when it comes to a lot of these cuts. So I think that's going to be a messy budget year. I think there's going to be a lot of threats of shutdowns and maybe even some short shutdowns that we see. But I think similar to kind of what the speaker navigated through last year, he is going to kind of do everything that he can to show that he's trying to accommodate the Freedom Caucus and that kind of wing of the Republican Party. And at the end of the day, when those bills simply cannot pass the House and can't actually get out there, it's going to be a bipartisan negotiation with the Democratic leadership. And we're going to end up with stuff that is more kind of in line with the types of budgets we've seen the last couple of years. That's my guess. And I know the city can't just budget and work on my guess, but I say that just trying to kind of assure people that I think that we've got a long ways to go. And that I don't think that we're going to see like, elimination of some of these HUD programs or like just huge cuts in SNAP or in some of these other things. I think that it's going to be much more modest at the end of the day.
That may be like a good note to end on. I don't want to ask any different questions. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, cool. Oh, sorry, Dr. Brown?
I do have one question. We just had this young lady pop in. I want to hear from her. Whose team is she on?
She's on our team too.
Well, I've never met you. Well, hello, how are you?
My name is Janet. I'm a legislative assistant. I work closely with Mark on,
Oh, well, thank you for working on things for us. We appreciate you.
No, yeah, always happy to be joining these calls. It's really interesting and like take note of any of like the city concerns.
Well, thank you. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate you all working with this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Janet's an important member of our team and responsible for a lot of the work that we do here. So always happy to have her on board.
So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a lovely weekend, and we'll reconvene shortly with a lot more information. The next 2 weeks is going to be really interesting. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, CSO, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.